All right, aloha, guys. This is JRTV, and I'm going to explain to you some things about lightwork that you may have never heard. And it has to do with the dimension that it occurs in. It's just like the Matrix movies, where people, could see the mesh that unites and interconnects all existence, and the unified field of light, that which we are. And I want to explain that uh, there was a there's an organization called Sukyo Mahikari that it started in Japan, where the light work originated, if you will. And they do one of the particular things they do. They visualize They have somebody holding their fingers, brilliant beam of light going through the forehead, third chakra activation. Is that the third? No, that's the sixth chakra. Excuse me. That is the pineal gland, and the reason it's important to protect that is seal that, if you will. That in the Bible they call it sealing the forehead. And the reason it's important is it protects you against bad spirits, interdimensional beings like evil entities, and also even animal spirits who, we have obviously evidence of that, where you notice certain, be they autistic or be they people that seem crazy, they perform these actions that seem to be like an animal. It seems to be like a creature is doing, like they'll move around and flap around, and it looks like they're acting like a particular species of animal. And so we want to protect ourselves. Obviously, you don't want to do this in a casual setting. This is a formal meditative, active meditation, spiritual process. And you want to visualize a brilliant beam of white light streaming through the person's forehead for about 10 minutes. And I've heard that one shouldn't do it for, I think, more than 10 minutes every day. This may seem abstract or not make sense to you, but look into it more. Sukyo Mahikari. I'll include a link below for that. But the point is, guys, is what's going on is this light work, all right? So you visualize brilliant white light. You just imagine it beaming through everyone when you're in line, you're waiting, when you feel anxious and you want material arrangement, when you feel like there's maybe a dark spirit or person, you use protection, like a protective force field of bright white light, imagining people smiling. You're programming and just let's say there's a reel of film in your head, and whatever the imagery is, it connects you to those people. And it may connect you to bad people, but only so that you can do good, like learn from them or help them, or perhaps even avoid them. Sometimes there's darkness in the physical realm that to survive you have to deal with, and often that's just a matter of avoiding it or seeking and giving space from it. But that darkness, in the practical sense of day-to-day activities, that has to do with, like, if you're walking around in public and there seems like somebody dangerous, then you obviously want to avoid that person, right? But in the sense of, like, spiritual, like maybe when you're at home and you think of that person, think of them smiling. Think of the poor person sitting on the ground smiling. That's pure consciousness in that person. That person is still a person. That's still us. That's still you. That's still me. Pure consciousness. So we have to address it. And so my desire is that you would just use all the forms of light work, whether it's the third eye activation, sixth chakra, pineal gland, protecting that so that no dark entities can control you. Obviously, things like drug usage and alcohol consumption, it lowers the awareness, so it leaves your pineal gland vulnerable to get, controlled. I've also heard that dark entities can come in through the third chakra. So just try to focus on these things and protect yourself. And especially if you do this light work often and you know about it, and then if you don't do it for like a couple days, then a dark spirit might especially want to attack you because you're proliferating and promulgating joy and light in the world. So positive people, and also obviously bad entities, not just physical realm, but in the spiritual realm, the fourth dimension. They'll target and try to target like leaders of the world, so they can try to control. But like I was saying, these entities operate under certain restrictions and laws, kind of like how in the Bible it says that the whatever devil is only, there are like specific laws that he's restricted by. One of them is they have to tell the truth. So if you ask them, are you a dark spirit or are you a bad spirit, they have to acknowledge or say that they are. Like if you're around somebody who you think is a programmed, Illuminati programmed or whatever, possessed by a bad spirit, ask them, are you human? Are you programmed? And by the way, people can be programmed. They can be hypnotized. Okay, this is serious stuff. They can be hypnotized to do things. So you need to protect yourself to all extents possible, especially if you have positioned yourself in some type of social or position of notoriety or celebrity. You have to especially be careful. So let's do a little more light work before we conclude for the evening. I'm glad that everyone's tuning in and doing some light work and contemplating these grave and serious physical matter issues, spiritual issues. So let's imagine, for example, let's imagine somebody that last we were left off on somebody who you, and by the way, I'm holding my phone and everything, but please be sure to continue spinning your rock in one hand, tapping into that unity field of light, tapping into that, and just now you're in, you tap into that. Feel this, like putting your hand in a brilliant cloud of light, like you're activated, right? And now we can beam whatever we want. We can beam buildings. Imagine beaming a building. In fact, it's easier if you're at the top of a building or on a mountain or some high place to do this light work, because it's easy to like imagine a beam streaming through somebody or down to the ground, and then like imagine a brilliant laser of light streaming down to the ground like you would in a sci-fi movie, and then imagine people going to it excited, jubilant, and they just reach out and brilliant white light, and they activate themselves. They activate their auras, and they protect and seal, quote unquote, their third eyes. The author of the book Flower of Life also does that. What I'm talking about, he explains it, how that certain cultures in Russia and coincidentally in Hawaii, they did this protection of the pineal gland process. Perhaps it's done elsewhere, but I'm glad you guys are tuning in. Let's do a little more light work before I reach a conclusion here. And I do want to open up the chat to make sure everyone's doing okay there. But thanks for joining me. And yeah, I will try to keep you informed to as able. Let's keep new, interesting ideas and meditations, such that we might attract what we want. And for me, that is joy across the world. But it requires a mind to do it. You can't just do physical positive actions and think negatively and think. You have to combine the physical with the mental ability. Just it's your program in your mind. Think of it as a reel of a movie reel, right? And or a memory chip that you program, and once it's programmed, something like more than 50%, maybe even 90% of what you deal with during the day is because that chip is programmed to attract certain things. So the more you learn and diversified, the more you can, shall we say, connect or attract with everyone. And this isn't in a physical or sexual sense. This is in the sense of you can relate to people, you can understand them, you can deal with problems, and you can attract what you want. Like a perfect example would be, like, let's say you watch TV and programmed. Even if you don't like what you see on TV and you wouldn't do it, you maybe like it in a subtle way. Like you wouldn't say it's poisonous. Like, for example, Coca-Cola. It is pretty toxic, but you might not be as concerned about avoiding it if you are always watching TV and always seeing Coca-Cola commercials, And the same goes for, it's interesting, like all these internet pornography sites, watching people have engaged in sexual activities. The mind looks at that and it wants to be those people or have those bodies, but in the real world, when you're walking around, you're not worried about being those people, or you're not worried about, you're just focused on yourself and living your life. And it's almost good that all these quote unquote slutty or promiscuous people do what they do and identify themselves, because it's information. It's like, obviously you wouldn't want to be with those people. You want to be with somebody who's not. And like I said, if somebody has an attractive body, you won't be envious of them if they use it properly. If they use it to try to, seek multiple physical, multiple mates, quote unquote, then it's obviously a negative thing. It's antisocial, it's destructive. It's not love, it's lust. Anything that is not love is by definition lust. It's in those terms. So let's transcend this physical darkness realm and enter the realm of light. And for example, I would rather be with no one than be with my non-dream mate. I would rather be alone my whole life except for maybe one day, and then the next day get into a car crash or something and transcend this particular body. I'd rather be with that person one day than be with anyone else for the whatever duration of my lifetime. So looks like we got Mr. G in play. This is good stuff. Why don't we have you chime in here?
Hello, guys. I didn't want to interrupt. I just took a